Coming up on No Pulp, we're going to look at maybe the wildest week in the history of college basketball.
We had a special guest coming in the juicer. He's coming with gusto, he's coming with swag, but it's not going to be a very good ending for him.
Then we move over to men's lacrosse, decide which conference is better, the ACC or the Big Ten.
All that on No Pulp, and guess when it starts?
Right now.
Are we crazy?
Again, you're going over too many times. I can't with you.
When you lose those games, it's tough for those teams.
Mainstream, schmainstream.
I am ready to go to battle.
Welcome to No Pulp alongside Calvin Christoforo. I'm Ben Shulman. Thank you so much for joining us today as we debate and I guess occasionally agree on the biggest topics around college sports. Calvin, we got to jump right into this one because I don't think either of us have seen anything like this before. You go to last week, all 6 of the top 6 teams in college basketball lost. Is this the craziest year, the year with the most parity that you can remember?
I don't know if it's the craziest year. It's the craziest weekend because that never happened. 1 through 6 lose on the same day? What? So I don't know if it's the craziest year of college basketball. We haven't gotten that far yet because we have no idea what's going to happen in the NCAA tournament. But the top 6 teams in the AP poll losing in one weekend, that is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's completely unheard of, especially with powerhouses like Gonzaga up there at number 1. It's a year that I think, while it might not be the most parity we've ever seen, at least compared to last year, I think there's a lot more parity. Knowing that the top 6 teams could be beaten, while last year we spent the entire year just thinking, okay, Gonzaga's going to win pretty much every single game that's in front of them, alongside a couple of the conference powerhouses that might threaten them. Of course, Baylor did.
Yeah, Gonzaga and Baylor were 1-2 in my mind going into the NCAA tournament last year, but still, there was parity a year ago. You had Oral Roberts' unprecedented run right in the NCAA tournament. You had teams losing left to right. Oregon State out of the Pac-12, not only winning the Pac-12, but going all the way and getting to the Elite Eight, which they did last year. But this year, you're looking up at your screen, you get the top 6 teams going down. What's the game on that board that was the most surprising to you?
I think it's Arizona loses to Colorado. I'm pretty high on what the Wildcats have been doing for a lot of this year, and Colorado's just not a great basketball team. You look at almost every other loss there, with the exception of Purdue losing to Michigan State. The team that they lost to is ranked, so it's not a huge deal. But in this situation, you're having a team in Colorado that's not really even fighting for much postseason, and they can knock off the number 2 team in the nation. That one shocked me. How about you?
Hey, anything could happen in Pac-12. Like I said, we saw that last year with Oregon State. To me, I'm looking at Gonzaga and St. Mary's. Look, I love the Gales. Don't portray me as a Gales hater here.
Are you sure you're not a Gale hater?
I'm not a Gales hater.
You like all Gales?
I like all Gales. That is a fact.
Okay, so you're an Iona fan.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Latino.
All right.
But St. Mary's, a team in the West Coast Conference, a conference that I don't like at all. I don't think the West Coast Conference.
You're anti-West Coast.
I'm anti-West
You think it's
Coast
too
Conference.
hyped up? Because everyone loves the West Coast Conference.
I hate the West
these
Coast
days.
Conference. That is a fact. But St. Mary's beating Gonzaga is a major blemish on Gonzaga's resume because they usually rip through the West Coast Conference. Oh, these guys look unbeatable, and you can't lose to anybody in the West Coast Conference. Well, they did. They lost to St. Mary's. That's the most surprising game to me.
Unfortunate for Gonzaga because they had stacked up what was probably one of their strongest non-conference schedules they had ever had.
Yeah.
And then you follow that up with a loss. But is this potentially happening for larger reasons in college basketball? Like, are the bubble teams, the mid-level teams, closer to the top than they used to be?
You know what? I think they are, and here's why. I think there's an abundance of athletes. I think there's a lot more guys who can play and a lot more guys who are sticking to stay at a school closer to home. I know it's a distant example, but look at Michael Porter Jr. a couple years ago at Missouri, right? A Missouri guy, knew he wanted to play for Missouri, goes to Missouri, takes the Tigers to the tournament. John Morant at Murray State, a guy who came out of nowhere and took Murray State on a run. There's a lot more athletes out there. There's a lot of guys under the radar, not only that ESPN Top 100, that are getting starts at other schools and they're making an impact there. That's why I think there's more parity in the game.
I think the bubble teams are a big part of it, but I think you look even lower to some of the bottom-feeding teams who just aren't bottom-feeding at the rate that they were in the previous years because of what you said. Guys realize now you can go to a different school and you can still find a path to the NBA. John Morant being the big example, or you look at, the the former Portland duo where you had Weber State and Lehigh in there. So I think the bottom is getting closer to the top, but of course the middle is looped in with that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We're talking about the bottom, we're talking about the middle, but the team at the top right now is the Providence Friars. Hey, don't look now. The Friars are in the top 10. They won the Big East regular season title over the weekend. I'll get to your opinion in a minute here, but John Dale's a co-host of this show as well, has a pretty strong opinion on the Friar Freaks.
Final word, I want to educate every single person in America that will make a bracket for March Madness. Don't bother picking Providence to go on a run.
Hey, those guys played the Dunkin' Donuts Center. Don't do them dirty like that.
There was some evil in his eyes.
Behind those eyes. But do you agree with John? Do you think the Friars are hot frauds?
I do. I do agree with
there
John.
it
I
is.
do agree with John. Now, I'm not as passionate as he is. Like I give them
a soft intent.
I give them a little bit more credit. I think they've had a really good year. But you look at what happened in the last month or so, they've had to skate by a lot of really, really average to below average basketball teams. You just look in the last 2 weeks, they had to go to overtime 3 different times, which is already lucky. 2 of them were against DePaul and Butler. Not great teams. I'll take the triple OT to Xavier, but you could have easily lost that game as well. That's 2 close games against them, and these are far from the only tight ones that Providence has relied on.
Hey, they always say it's better to be lucky than good. That's why I'm sitting up here next to you. But Providence, when they win 8 of their last 10 games by less than 10 points against some middling teams, you mentioned it, the Paul Blue Demons, they ain't beating anybody anytime soon. And the Friars skate by them by 3 points. Xavier go to triple overtime. I'm with you. I'm with John. I don't buy the Friars either. Look, I buy the Dunkin' Donuts Center. I'm still going to buy my strawberry frosted donuts, but I don't think Providence is making a run at March. I think their ceiling is the Sweet 16.
I agree with you. I mean, you look at the good teams that they've played against outside of the conference, because it's hard to judge people inside a conference sometimes, and these are fantastic teams. They got blown out by Marquette and blown out by Virginia, like seriously torched by UVA early in the year. That's a UVA team that's not terrible, but not great by any stretch.
Average ACC
not a team you would consider in the top 10 or anywhere close to there. Let's stick in the ACC, though, and flip over to the women's side, because there was one of the most freakish scorelines, scoreboards, whatever you want to call it, we've ever seen. Not the final. Not the final between Notre Dame and Louisville. This was a 31-3 game at the end of the first quarter. Notre Dame is a top 15 team in the country. What happened?
I think it's one of those games. Look, I don't think Notre Dame's a bad team by any means. I still think they're a top 20 team in the country. They have Maddie Westbelt, who's a stud in the middle for ND. And they kind of made a little bit closer towards the end, right? But to go down, I think it got to 45-3 at one point.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those fluke games where Notre Dame got up to a bad start and then said, hey, it's over. This game's a wrap, right? And then they took their head out of it for a little bit, and Haley Van Lith and Emily Inkster, a Louisville team that can go on a run, did that to them. I think this is a fluke game where the Fighting Irish got up to a slow start, and it took them a real long time to get in the rhythm.
I agree with you. I think it's a bad matchup at the end of the day, and I think the biggest thing for Notre Dame, they've proven themselves. For the people that want to take away the success that they've had, this is a team that beat NC State. Let's not forget that, okay? Sure, they've been blown out twice by Louisville. That's a quality basketball team, top 3 team in the country. So NC State, rather Notre Dame, still a good team.
Not worried about it.
All right. Well, we aren't too worried about Notre Dame, but Calvin might be worried about our guest coming up next.
Come on.
Ethan Frank joins us for the Juicer to take on Calvin. We can't wait to see how their debates go. That's up next on Citrus TV.
Hey, look, it's those guys. Are you good to drive?
I'm fine.
How many did you have?
I should be fine.
You should be.
Go and step out of the vehicle for me.
See ya, buddy. Good luck. So turns out, buzz driving and drunk driving, they're the same thing, and it costs around $10,000. So not worth it.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move, so I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
We are strong, we are resilient, and we will get through this together. But these are stressful times, and it's important to also practice good self-care. It's normal to feel overwhelmed, anxious, or afraid, but there is hope. Reach out to someone, connect with your friends, stay in touch with your community, and know that you are not alone. Learn more at wearebroadcasters.com/hope, furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
Welcome back to No Pulp. We're in a spot that you haven't seen us in a long while. I'm Ben Shulman. These two handsome gentlemen to my left and right are Calvin Christoforo and Ethan Frank, and we are doing the juicer the old style, head-to-head for the first time in so long. We can't wait to bring it to you guys. You look pretty ready, so I'm just going to ask you to shake hands so this doesn't get out of hand, all right? Can we get a handshake? Nothing from our competitors. All right, let's get going. We mentioned it in the last part of the show. 6 teams lose out of the top 6 in college basketball. Calvin, I go to you. Which one are you most confident in?
I'm most confident in Purdue, the Boilermakers, and I'll tell you why, Ben, because you are our very precious judge here. Look, they got a stud in Jaden Ivey. To my money, one of the best players in college basketball, a guy you can go to down the stretch when you need a bucket. This is a guy who is a star in the Big Ten. He's not a bad night. You know, you go to Zach Edey. He is 7'4". Okay, 7'4". That is me divided in half. Plus me again, plus a half of me. 7'4". Did that math wrong?
Look, Calvin, no, I'm from the metric system, but that didn't make any sense, Calvin. I don't know what that means.
He's 7'4".
Right, I'm going to have to cut you off. 7'4".
The basket's 10 feet. He's 7'4". So
Ethan,
it's like,
who are you most confident in?
Well, Jaden Ivey may be one of the best players in college basketball. Jabari Smith is the best player in college basketball, and he will be the #1 pick in the NBA draft. I love stars, and Jabari Smith is a full-blown star. Bruce Pearl said at the beginning of this college basketball season he wants to turn Auburn from a football school to an everything school, and he's doing that with the Tigers. They already beat Kentucky once this season. They're one of the best teams in the SEC. They're one of the best teams in the country, and Auburn is going to continue to dominate even after this loss.
Yeah, you go count. Okay, you're.
What do you think?
Go count the Big Dipper over there, Star.
You're the one doing the math over here.
Okay. Bad math aside, I'm going to have to go to my left with Calvin on this one. Purdue is just a bit of more experienced team. I like Jabari Smith a lot, but they've had some trouble with some other teams that they didn't lose to, like Georgia even. So I'm going to go with Purdue. Let's flip the script now. Of the 6 teams that lost, which are you the least confident in? Start with you, Ethan.
I'm going to go back to the SEC, and it's Kentucky. You know why? You know why? Because Coach Cal is a fraud.
What?
Coach Cal? The only guy he can win
Calipari?
with. The only guy he can win with is Anthony Davis. Is there an Anthony Davis on this Kentucky team, Ben?
Probably not.
Nope, there is not Anthony Davis on this Kentucky team. They're not the best team in their own conference. They're dealing with injuries. Ty Washington's been out. Sahvir Wheeler's been out. And I don't trust them. Who are you going to down the stretch to create a basket?
Look,
you going to Oscar Tshiebwe with this?
Sure.
He's just going to grab a rebound and throw it off the backboard and catch it again?
I might get a B-, D- in math, okay? You get an F in history. Look, Calipari took the UMass Minutemen deep in the tournament, okay?
Did they win?
Who do you like?
Give me the whole front.
Or who do you not like?
I don't like the Arizona Wildcats.
You're saying this to someone who used to live in Arizona, a native son.
The Arizona Wildcats, 25-3. Oh, big whoop-de-doo, okay? You play in the Pac-12. Sure, the Pac-12 overachieved in the tournament last year. Oh, that's so good and fun, right? But look, Arizona hasn't gone to they've gone to the national championship in 2000. They lost. They've been to the tournament, get this, 15 times since then. They've been to the Elite Eight once. They've been knocked out of the first round 5 times. Arizona, under a first-year head coach, isn't going nowhere. They are a first-round exit.
Tommy Lloyd is going to prove you
Okay.
wrong. I guarantee it.
Okay,
Guarantee
gentlemen.
it.
I guarantee
Gentlemen,
it.
I've come to a decision. It's Ethan in Kentucky.
I'm holding you in Kentucky.
And it's more, I like Arizona. This Colorado loss is bad, but other than that, it's Tennessee, it's UCLA. Those are not bad teams, and they beat UCLA also. So I really find this the one blemish, whereas Kentucky's had a couple extra. I'm going to tie it up here. Ethan's got one. Let's keep moving forward, though. We're switching it over to women's basketball, and the Big Ten tournament is coming up. Ethan, who do you think's going to win it?
It's going to be Iowa. You know why? Because I love the Stars. Caitlin Clark is the best player in college basketball.
Go look at Neptune over there.
They just put up triple digits on a top 10 team in Michigan. They beat Indiana, another really good team in the Big Ten, twice this season. When you have the best player, you have the best chance to win. It's that simple. Caitlin Clark is going to dominate the Big Ten tournament.
What are you, an Aries? What are you? I don't know. You having a 3-star date today with your stars?
All right, let's move on.
No, having
What's
a
the point?
5-star day.
What's
It's
the
what
point?
matters.
Who's your winner?
Forget
Who's
the
your winner?
Stars here. Okay, I'm taking Indiana.
Who lost to Iowa twice?
Caitlin Clark, we get it. She shoots it from the logo. Look, I love Caitlin Clark more than the next guy. Actually, you're the next guy. I like Caitlin Clark more than you. But hey, Indiana is my favorite team in the Big Ten. You know why? They're getting healthy at the right time. Mackenzie Holmes.
What are you, a doctor?
Mackenzie Holmes, Maine native, by the way. She comes back after a month off. She's averaging this season 16 points per game, 7 rebounds per game. They lost her. Now she's back. Now they're healthy. They started 18-1. They're going to get back to that shape. They're making a run in the Big Ten tournament.
Calvin, they've lost 3 games in a row. It's Ethan and Iowa.
3 to 4.
It's Ethan, 3 out of 4. It's
They're healthy now.
and
They are back
Iowa.
healthy
It's
now.
not a question. It's Ethan and Iowa.
Obviously, a question was asked. So.
Hey, it's a question I asked, but right when he gave me that answer, I thought maybe you go with the Ohio States, the Michigans of the world.
The Buckeyes came to the Carrier Dome and went back to Columbus on the wrong side of the game.
Well, let's bring it a little bit closer to the Carrier Dome. It won't be the Syracuse Orange, but Calvin, who do you think is going to win the ACC?
Now this is what I would call an easy question. This would be North Carolina State. Look, I went to the stairs of Renner Coliseum, a couple weeks back. Alyssa Cunane and the squad are studs. You know how many games in the ACT tournament they've played without a loss?
How many?
6! They won the ACC tournament a season ago. They were going to win it in 2020 before the season got canceled due to the pandemic. And you know why I like the Wolfpack? Because it's a Wolf pack. It's not Alyssa Cunane, it's a pack. 6 players average 7 or more points per game. They are reigning ACC champs. They already beat Louisville, and I'm sure that's who you're going to say because they have a blonde lefty who shoots the basketball well. No, okay. NC State is the team winning the ACC. No questions.
Of course, the singular teams are going up against them because there's only one Wolf pack.
Yeah.
Who do you have?
I got the Louisville Cardinals, a team of Cardinals, multiple
Pack
people.
of birds, flock of birds.
It's a flock of birds.
The flock.
We get it. We get it. You go to Raleigh one time and you fall in love with NC State. That's really cool and all, Calvin. The Louisville, they got the 3-headed monster, Haley Van Lith, Kiana Smith. We know you're just jealous of Haley. Emily Ensler, a trio all averaging double digits. They're out for revenge against the Wolfpack after losing earlier this year, after losing in the ACC tournament back in 2021. Yeah, they're out for revenge, and they're going to get it down in Greensboro. They're going to beat the Wolfpack in the championship. Louisville will be your 2022 ACC Women's Basketball Tournament
You get fitted
champions.
for that Abe Lincoln 1865 cap you got going there? Because you're spreading lies. I mean,
Gentlemen.
honest Abe would never, but you're capping.
Okay, we have a 2-point question here to decide it. And Calvin wins the juicer today.
Of course.
NC State.
NC State. As soon as you
they
get to NC
beat
State,
Louisville this season.
I don't think you understand.
I went with the heads-to-head.
It's a pack.
Look,
It's a pack.
These two have a rivalry.
I like my flock.
Multiple wolves. Pack.
These two have a rivalry, but it's not as big as the ACC and Big Ten in men's lacrosse. When we come back, Calvin and I are going to debate which is better. And if you just saw him, it'll be pretty crazy coming up next.
Pack. It's a pack.
Adventure can be found anywhere, but the best place to start is in the forest.
I spy something beginning with S.
Snow.
No.
Snow-covered trees.
Nothing to do with snow.
Head outside to discover incredible animals and beautiful plants that come together to create an unforgettable adventure.
Wow.
So grab your loved ones.
Don't even.
And explore a world of possibilities.
Come on, this way.
Visit discovertheforest.org to find the closest forest or park to you.
Got a quarter?
Hey, welcome back to No Pulp. Calvin Christoforo, Ben Shulman. We've talked a lot about basketball. We've got our basketball fix in. So let's talk some lax, Ben. Hey,
You're excited for lax.
I'm so excited. Okay, I'm fired up. I just got a big juicer win, okay?
You did.
There's two major conferences in college lacrosse, and I know the Ivy League's going to be calling my phone next week.
And the America East is going to be angry
as well.
That's a good
conference as well, right? The Big East, right? But the two main ones are the ACC and the Big Ten.
Yes.
And I'm angry because you're angry because I think the ACC is a much better conference than the Big Ten. And I'm going to tell you why. Because I have this all ACC team that would destroy your all Big East, Big Ten team. Look at this. Look at this attack. Gray, Kavanaugh, Schellenberger. How many points do you think they combined for last year?
Gray, Kavanaugh, Schellenberger.
234.
But you got no Dordovic on there, the leading scorer in the conference. I know we haven't got to.
You're not stopping that trio. You're not.
I don't see that team beating my all Big Ten team because there's just a lot more going on in terms of versatility. Logan Wisnauskas, he can score with pretty much anyone. I'll give you Chris Gray can score more points than him. Wisnauskas, that's it. And then you got Zawada, who's beaten everyone in the ACC in goals and assists. He's feeding both sides. Not to mention we win about 70% of our faceoffs if we have Justin Inacio there. And yes, that's against ACC teams too, because he went 18 for 26 against UNC.
Against Peter LaSala. Right, that's my face-off guy.
Look.
And maybe you'll have a gripe with me when we talk about, the matchups that they played against one another. Hey, but the rankings, on the other hand, is a different story because I think the ACC rankings, these are my ACC power rankings. Virginia, Notre Dame, Duke, Syracuse, North Carolina. These are blue blood programs. 3 out of the 4 of those teams got to Memorial Day weekend a season ago. This is a loaded conference. You see their US ILA ranking. All 5 of them in the top 15. They are going back to Memorial Day weekend. Virginia, the headliner in there. That is a loaded bunch.
Yeah, it is a loaded group. I'm interested why you had Syracuse over North Carolina. I know the recent loss, but the Orange have lost a couple as well.
Yeah, they lost to the number 1 and number 2 teams in the nation.
That's fair.
North Carolina got blasted by Ohio State.
Okay. Well, let's go look at Ohio State and all the rest of the Big Ten teams that I've ranked here. It's pretty close in the Big Ten, and I really like Ohio State because of that UNC game specifically. I think Rutgers is good, but if I had to bet on any team challenging Maryland, for which I don't think there will be a true challenger, in my mind, the Buckeyes just have the complete team to do it.
I disagree. Hey.
You disagree? Who do you like?
That's why the ACC is better than the Big Ten.
Why is the ACC bigger than the Big Ten?
That is why.
That's why.
That's why.
It seems like you have a big argument against the Big Ten.
We're going to get out of here. We're going to toss you a break. Okay? The ACC is better than the Big Ten.
Okay.
That's determined. The viewers at home know that.
I think the Big Ten's better than the ACC.
And I quite frankly think you're wrong.
Maybe we'll agree a little bit more when we come back. We have the biggest games in college basketball coming up, and we also have our final words next on No Pulp.
I see you mobbing over her. Let's go. Let's mob. Let's crawl. Let's crawl. Let's crawl. Hey, yo, we mobbing. Come on, girl. Let's crawl. Hey, yo, let's crawl. Hey, yo, let's crawl. Hey, let's crawl. Hey, yo, let's crawl.
Got a quarter?
Just a little bit more time on No Pulp with Calvin Christoforo. I'm Ben Shulman. Thanks so much for sticking with us for the last 20 or so minutes. And Calvin, as we wrap it up here, we got to look ahead to some of the biggest games coming up. We did some talk in this show already about the Purdue Boilermakers, one of the 6 teams in men's collegiate basketball to lose out of the top 6 this past week. What do you think they do against Wisconsin?
I think they win. Hey, they're my team that I like the most that lost this past weekend. I think Ivy and the gang turn things around. I think they're going to win against the team from Madison.
I am actually going to go in the other way.
Whoa.
I have Wisconsin beating Purdue for a couple reasons.
Okay.
One, Purdue coming off losses, not great. They lost to Michigan a couple games ago and then nearly fell against Maryland. They only beat Maryland by a single point. That's an unranked team. And then they also lost to Wisconsin at home already. They're trying to go on the road and avoid the sweep. It just feels to me like Wisconsin's got the upper hand here.
Hey, well, we disagree. We agreed earlier, though, that we aren't believers in Providence.
Yes.
They're back in action going against Villanova, a team that they lost to at home a couple weeks back. Do the Friars get their revenge?
No. No, they don't. And I don't expect us to disagree on this. Do you have any disagreement there that they're going to beat Villanova?
No. The Cats will win at home.
It's a much better basketball team. I know they're ranked lower, but it's a more talented team. I think a better defensive team, and probably can shoot the 3 better as well, which is about how you beat someone in every single way.
We're total agreement here. I got Villanova beating Providence again.
All right, so Villanova beats Providence. I have Wisconsin over Purdue. You have Purdue over Wisconsin.
Yes.
Calvin, now what is your final word of the week here?
My final word is, hey, linemen are athletes too. Ole Miss defensive lineman hits a home run in a college baseball game. You got to look at this. You got to see this to believe it. This is my guy going yard 405 feet to left field, a home run over the fence. Tywone Malone goes yak. This guy, 310 pounds, a preseason all-SEC defensive lineman, goes to the baseball field in just his second at-bat in 3 years. Hits a tater off Virginia Commonwealth. Hey, linemen, they're athletes as well.
Look, Calvin, this was a bit of a meat show, so I'm pretty happy with that selection. I feel like that's good for all the big boys that we saw on camera today. But I'm going to focus a little more on college basketball. And there's been a rhetoric over the last 2 years, and for the most part it's been fair, that the ACC is worse than it used to be. But do not sleep on these guys when it comes to the tournament, because we are overestimating teams like some from Calvin's hated West Coast Conference, programs that have no history of success in the tournament going up against proven blue bloods. I expect Duke to be in the Final Four. I think Miami's a team that can streak like crazy because they can get as hot shooting as almost anyone in the country. I'm a fan of Notre Dame, and North Carolina, like Duke, tournament experienced as well. Do not sleep on the ACC. I think it's going to be a really exciting tournament for that conference. I think you disagree with me.
No. Why do I disagree with that? I like the Atlantic Coast Conference a lot more than the next guy.
Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate that, even though I think you might have told me before that you didn't like it, but it's okay. That'll do it for our time here. I've had a lot of fun with Calvin. For our whole crew, I'm Ben Shulman. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time on No Pulp.